Welcome to ETS Primecast, a webinar series bringing together customers, industry leaders, and trusted partners.
Good morning to everyone. I want to thank you for taking time for joining us today for the ETS/BI GL Connect webinar. My name is Thomas Heringer-Craig. I'm the General Manager for the Applications Practice at ETS Innovations. Just before we get started in the main event, I would like to give you a quick overview of ETS and then introduce our SplashBI representatives who will be running the webinar for us. Saf, if I can ask you just to go to the next slide, please. At ETS, our leadership is Zandi Mbele and Dennis Naidu. Zandi is our chairman. She's a seasoned IT executive and corporate leader with 25 years experience in strategy and consulting, innovation, cloud, analytics, and digital transformation. From an operational and execution level, the business is led by our CEO, Dennis. Dennis brings extensive leadership experience and has a strong record of scaling businesses and driving operational excellence. ETS Innovations is a level 1 BBEE certified Oracle partner. And in our applications division, we focus specifically on Oracle ecosystems across both Oracle eBusiness Suite and Oracle Cloud. At ETS, we have 3 lines of businesses. We have our operations and infrastructure business. We then also have an advisory practice. And then, of course, we have our applications business. Saf, if we could move to the next slide, please. Our applications, from our applications perspective, our strength lies particularly in Oracle Finance and enterprise processes, including general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and procurement. But beyond implementation of Oracle and support, our focus is really on helping customers optimize and modernize their environments and ultimately extract more value from their Oracle investments. One of the most common challenges we see across all Oracle customers, whether EBS or cloud, is around the reporting and analytics. Many organizations still rely heavily on manual processes, Excel-based reporting, or delayed access to key insights. That's where our partnership with SplashBI becomes extremely powerful. Together, we help organizations access real-time data across their Oracle landscape, delivering meaningful financial and operational insights and significantly improving decision-making speed across the business. This is particularly impactful in areas like finance, where visibility in accounts receivable, general ledger, and overall performance is absolutely critical. So today's session is really about bringing that to life. We'll be focusing specifically on SplashBI GL Connect, which is a powerful capability for delivering real-time general ledger insights and reporting. And of course, if anything you see today sparks your interest and you'd like a deeper discussion or a tailored demo across any of these areas, please feel free to reach out to myself. Saefddin will also briefly highlight some of additional capabilities that are available in SplashBI before we close out our session today. With that, let me then introduce you to our webinar hosts from SplashBI today. Firstly, we have Julian Sweet. Julian is the finance solutions manager at SplashBI. And then we also have Saefddin Allan. He's the pre-sales consultant for SplashBI. I'll now hand over to Saf and Julian to take us through today's webinar. Saf, I'm going to hand over to you to continue from here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thomas, for the introduction. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining our webinar here with ETS to talk more about the GL reporting and financial insights with our SplashBI tool, GL Connect. Before we jump into GL Connect, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about who is SplashBI. So SplashBI is a global organization, was founded in 2014. We have more than 550 customers across the globe. 10% of these customers are Fortune 500 customers. We have more than 330 employees, and we are secured and compliant from all of the certificates. A little bit of background of SplashBI before jumping into GL Connect. So for GL Connect, it is our Excel-based financial reporting for Oracle EBS and Cloud, which is a tool that brings your Oracle financial data directly into Excel with live refresh, governed access, and drill down into your details, giving your financial teams the full reporting capability and control. Some of the key points that highlights GL Connect: the direct connectivity to Oracle EBS and Oracle Cloud, refreshable Excel reports with live balances and drill downs, built from the ground up for your finance team, designed for speed and trust and control, and the real-time connectivity with your Oracle EBS suite. So for some of the challenges that currently happening while separating your payables and manual activity in the account payables trade liability, has some highlighted points, like you have the same account but with different types of activity. Your key information is spread across the systems, or you have limited context in the balance that you are seeing, or even when you are drilling down, it does not give you that answers to your questions, because standard drill downs only shows transaction but does not explain how the actual balance is made. All of these liability will be addressed by our expert Julian. But before we jump into the demonstration, we have our first pull question, which is in the chat live right now, which tells you about and asks you as the audience, how do you usually identify manually posting your AP trade liability balance? So do you drill down into your journals and investigate? Do you export it into Excel and reconcile that manually? Or do you rely on the reviews and sign-off processes, or you are not always clear which postings are manual? All of your questions and answers will be answered by our expert Julian, and how GL can overcome these challenges. So let's just dive into the demonstration with our expert. Over to you, Julian.
I think firstly, I think there's the answer now, which is in the right-hand side. So if you could answer the poll question, and we'll, so then we can then see what the answers are, and then also I can try and then address some of those things, within the demonstration that we're then doing. So we'll just give it a moment for people to be able to answer that. And but what we should see is in a few moments, people should start clicking on that. So if you want to go ahead and do that, and we'll give that a moment, and we should then see some answers coming in.
Absolutely.
I think there's a bit of a delay there in terms of people answering. So if we want to go straight into the demo, then I think, Seth, if you could just skip forward to the slide for the demonstration. I just came on to say hi to everybody. Hi, I'm Julian Sweet. I'm the Finance Solutions Manager here based out of Brighton in England. I've been with the company for 5 years, recent anniversary. So I thought I'd just come on camera just to say hi to everybody. I just popped the camera off just while I'm doing the demonstration, so that at the end we will have a question and answer session, and within the chat that there is you'll see in the top right, there is the chat. Please, sort of put some questions at the very end, and I'll try my best to be able to answer that. So I'm just going to pop the camera off one moment, and I'll come back on at the end. And I'm just going to share my screen. Let's just take a second, just while we're selecting the entire screen. And Seth, if you can just confirm that you can see my screen, okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent. So as Seth said, that sort of what we're seeing here is then GL Connect, and this is the actual login screen to that, and this then resides directly from within Excel. So it's quite a nice thing. Instead of going into Oracle eBusiness Suite and having to swap to this, I can then just click login, and I could log into a number of different environments. So if you've got development, test, or something like that. And what you see just at the top is that then we use the Oracle roles that you then have, and then all the associated underlying security like FlexField security and things like that. I just wanted to focus on a couple of things here. So here we see a balance inquiry. So one of the things that we're talking about in this webinar is that if you're doing your month end and you're looking at your accounts payable, here I can pop in my accounts payable account, and you'll see the description of it by the side of this, and I can do a balance inquiry using the balance inquiry. You'll find this under the research tools menu. If you come and do a complete demo with us, we can talk about this in more detail. But at this level, what I will see is the overall balance of my accounts payable. So it might be at month end that you might have had to sweep, for example, transactions into the next month, and you may then have to make some manual postings or whatever reasons that you then need to make adjustments at the month end. But within this balance, you're not going to see that. And what you may see, for example, is a significant difference from one month to the next. And people like this in the balance screen because you can see this. Now we can drill into this figure. So if I want to see the underlying journals, for example, I can then click into this and I can then see a breakdown of this. And this, then allows me to then, for example, see what the categories that then make up this particular balance is, for example. But it may be that I want to go further and I then want to then be able to see just what the figure is for an adjustment for payments, for purchase invoices, and see that in a single balance figure. So today we just wanted to show you then the advanced balance that we then have. So here we then have the advanced balance functionality, and what you'll find is on our functions menu, you'll then find the advanced balance that you then see. If I just click on this a second, just so you can see the interface to this, and this will then link to cells that you then have on your workbook. What you see in column B is that we have the various journal categories that you then have, and a breakdown of the balance for purchase invoices, for payments, and for adjustments. And importantly, you can then see how that then breaks down, and we then have a total against this. Now, just for completeness, I've just then checked that and then verified that back against my balances to then see that I don't then have any difference. So here in the formula, you can also see that you can use bits of Excel within the scope of GL Connect. So you combine your Excel skills with your GL Connect skills that you also then see. And you'll see, from month to month, I then have no differences. Now, we already showed that we can drill into our balances that we have, and we can go to the journal details, but we can also do the same from the advanced balance as well. So if I then want to then just look at, my purchase invoices, if I click on the particular cell that we then have, I can then go directly to my journal. I can then see the journal details that's there. Or I may want to go further and then be able to see the subledger details. Also, anywhere where you see blue links, they're also then drillable as well. But for the purposes of this, I just want to highlight the drill down to the subledgers, because this is quite important in terms of understanding the type of transactions that you've got. So if you see some differences or variances and things like that, you may then want to then see what the source transaction is. And here I can then just go to my subledger drill, and you'll then see a lot of valuable information about that particular transaction. Now, if I scroll over to the right-hand side, what you'll then see is the key things. So who the supplier was of this particular transaction. And also here, I then get the invoice. So I could then also, because there's a blue link on it, I could then double click on it. So say, for example, you get something you don't expect, like a council tax bill or something, that you could then double click into that, and then you could then see the details behind that and why you then got a variance from what you expected for that particular month. So here, or large expense, here I can see the invoice header, I can see the invoice lines, and also I can see the invoice distributions that we then have. Coming back to our advanced balance, if you're then, want to talk to us later, we can take you through how you can build this. And this particular thing you can build in just a few moments in terms of that. And also these are then refreshable. So here I can just refresh these figures, and it will then go and calculate all those advanced balances, which, as I say, will then give you a very easy understanding of what the makeup of those balances are. Just quickly before I hand back to Seth, we want to keep it short and sweet today, but please come back to us again. Just before I hand back, I'll just highlight one or two other things that we can then do. So from having some sort of report, we also then have options to be able to then send this out to people. So we have the person distribute, so that you can say you want to run a report for a particular department. You can then send that out to individual departments. And also we then have various other research tools, like there's a built-in trial balance, and also we can see the balance inquiry. At that point, I'd like to hand it back to Seth, and we'll see, if you can then Did we get some answers to the polls? I think probably export to Excel is probably the common response to most of these things.
It's Thomas here. Yes, we did get a good response on the poll. Pretty much it's split across export to Excel and reconcile manually, and not always clear which postings are manual, which makes up basically 2/3 of the poll's response, which is pretty much what we expected. Julian, would you mind taking a question at this point?
Yeah, we can have a question at this point.
Maybe if we can just expand in terms of security for users that have access to do inquiry on GL. Could you maybe just expand a little bit in terms of just giving the comfort that a person who doesn't have the correct access in Oracle obviously won't have access to everything. Whatever they have access to in Oracle, they will actually have access to when viewing these reports.
Yes. So conventionally, that what will happen is that a user will then be mapped to a particular user that you have. I'm just going to show this very briefly. Normally, I wouldn't show this within the scope of a webinar, but we have a mapping screen that maps your user to the source user. So in this case, we're using like a single user. So when I'm running for my particular user, that my preferences and my security is derived from eBusiness Suite in this particular instance. But if I've got my named user J Suite set up within Oracle eBusiness Suite, I'll inherit all the security from eBusiness Suite. So if you have got so you could have two situations. One where you've got a user which is not within eBusiness Suite. You could then map them to a user that you've then created, and also you can set up the particular security that you then want for that, or they can have their own particular user. That user will need to have a general ledger responsibility, and then the associated setup with that. Moving on from that associated with the role that for that user, that there then will be the ledgers that they then have access to. Now, if, for example, say I pick another one, we'll then start seeing, let me just pick another one. Let's go to progress. So there, progress, you'll then see a different ledger, and I then would have access. If I then refresh this screen, it will then tell me, sort of error, you don't have access to this particular ledger. Also within Oracle, you can have segment security. So say you want to, people have only access to a particular company, and you've set up segment security rules on that. We do then respect those, and we will then only show the data that the user is entitled to. Thomas, does that give you the answer?
That answers it perfectly. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm resharing my screen to the next segment. Thank you so much, Julian, for the demonstration. It was thorough and showcasing GL Connect as the financial tool that we have. And it's time for our second question pool that says, which account type causes you the most close effort? Is it the receiving and inventory clearing? Is it the AP accruals, the trade, AP liability, or other control accounts? It is there in the question, giving you a moment to answer these questions if you are, and Julian can respond correspondingly to that. While doing that, let's talk more about what is more that SplashBI offers. So GL Connect we talked about is one of the tools that SplashBI offers under the umbrella of SplashBI. SplashBI specializes in the Oracle ERP systems, where we have the Oracle EBS reporting. If you have Fusion, we have Oracle Cloud Reporting, Discoverer Migration, and we have both People Analytics, Financial Analytics, and on top of that, all of that sits our Splash AI, which is our AI, agentic AI module. So there is more with SplashBI. If you want to know more, you can contact Thomas or contact us directly with our emails, and we will get back to you and follow up with the attendees in this webinar. Getting back to the Q&A, Thomas, do we have some answers?
Yes, we do. It's pretty much a split vote across all the account types, to be very honest, maybe leaning a little bit heavily more to the receiving and inventory clearing, but the rest is pretty much even across that.
Okay, that's
Yep.
that's good. That's good to hear. And next month, we'll actually be hosting out of the UK a webinar where we'll be focusing on the receiving and inventory clearing. So we'll then be looking at those particular accounts and how this can then help. But as you've seen there, by using the advanced balance, because I can then look at an individual source and category, I can then get an individual balance for those. And it's quite typical that we see that accounts are shared. That particularly when you get into receiving of things, you might have things like asset, or into assets, you get things like asset clearing, work in progress, construction in progress, and they may all be using the same account. And here's where the advanced balance will really then help you. So I think, sort of, at that point, I'll just hand it back to Saef again. So Saef, if you want to close out for us.
Absolutely. So
apologies, Saef, just before we close out,
please.
there is one question that's come through. The question is there an audit trail on changes made?
To the spreadsheet itself, is that?
Yes.
That's not to the spreadsheet itself, that we do have, sort of, there is a workbooks where you can save the workbook so that if you then share that with somebody, you can choose whether they can edit it or not. So that does put some control on that. So you can as well, that there is a reports menu, so you can actually upload it as a report, so it's then fixed, so nobody can actually then modify that. In terms of the changes, it will be down to whatever change control that you then have within Excel.
Thank you. I see we do still have 5 minutes left. Would you mind just one more question, which I think is quite
I'm happy to take any sort of questions that we have.
I think this question
is
quite pertinent, and it's a question that I've seen, come up, and I've seen it's a situation that I come across a lot of customers that we visit and assist, and that is during month-end close, specifically on AP and AR. Are you able to give maybe any advantages of using GL Connect to maybe streamline and smooth out that process in terms of closing your subledgers?
Yeah, certainly. So what we see quite a lot of is people use other Oracle tools, which are really more intended for things like dashboarding. But what that then involves is that they have to then run a report. They then have to export that report. They have to put it into Excel, and then they may then need to reformat that before they actually then get something which you can then look at and analyze and then see what the breakdown of your balances are. Here, you can just click refresh. So, it's just going to speed up the actual sort of process. There was a colleague of mine who, and she reckons that in terms of going through that sort of process, it would take several days in order to perform that. And we've seen efficiencies for some of our customers by using this and doing it directly in Excel. The one extreme example was 67% increase in, on average, we estimate, and as I stress, it is an estimate, that there's about 40% saving in terms of the time it takes from having to go through that sort of process of importing a report, reformatting the report before you can then actually do something.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's very exciting. Saef, I think I'm ready to hand over for you to close out then. That's all good.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thomas, and thank everyone for their time for joining our webinar here for GL Connect. And what I wanted to assure is that SplashBI and ETS team will be contacting you soon after this webinar to have any follow-up session to connect, understand your current and future requirements, discuss any pain points that you have, and answer all of your questions. And if you have any questions or you want to know more about other SplashBI tools, about our pre-built reports, about our SplashBI, about our Splash AI, more in-depth demos about GL Connect, you can reach out at any time to us.
Hi, team. Sorry, I think we may have got some people a little bit excited here now. There's a couple of questions that have just come through.
Go ahead.
Julian, would you mind quickly taking
No,
that?
go. Yeah,
Awesome.
certainly.
The question is from Lindilwe, and her question is, how does SplashBI differ to Oracle Analytics in the cloud?
Well, here we're actually showing GL Connect. So, what we'd like to do is perhaps, the demo for her, I think it was her, sort of in order to show that and then be able to showcase that. SplashBI is a fully fledged BI and analytics platform that it's, sort of very sort of self-contained. GL Connect is then a product that then sits on top of that platform. So really we need to be able to show it in its entirety to really be able to show, to answer that question, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Great.
I want to affirm more on that SplashBI is a unified platform that has all of the pre-built reporting and dashboarding in one place, where you can do all of your analytical solutions in one place. And it has more than for reporting more than 1,400 reports, and for dashboards we have more than 800 KPIs. So we actually, as a more of that data aggregator that sits on top of that, also our AI. So it's a full-fledged enterprise solution that differs us from the other vendors and competitors.
I think that's the key thing is that we've got a number of solutions that we then have in
Absolutely.
that. But to really showcase that properly, it'd be really great to talk to you.
Okay, thanks. So there is one or two other questions. We will respond to all the questions in writings for the ones that we maybe didn't get to as we've come to the end of the webinar. And so unfortunately they are going to kick us out of this location. So, but please continue posting your questions. Each one will be addressed back to you in writing, fully fledged.
Thomas, one thing that I want to mention, that we are planning a roundtable session with ETS in the next months. So wait us on that.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Much appreciated, and have a nice day further.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.